Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to Circuit of the Americas for the first time in the 3-year history of the ChampCar iRacing series. ChampCar Endurance Series is coming here this weekend for their first visit. iRacing this Wednesday night going to just beat them to the punch as we get right into the meat of this year-long championship, awarding 2 prizes, a free ChampCar Endurance Series entry to a randomly selected driver who completes at least 12 rounds, and also a very valuable free entry to our points winner. And our 3 highest placed drivers at the moment, Alex Albert, Alex Coffard, and Kevin Binkley, in that order. We're going to see how our drivers do today in a round that could be very, very important. Qualifying is underway right now before we get to our 1-hour race. And this is a long circuit, lap times approaching 2 minutes 40 seconds. So the drivers in that 1-hour session, it's plenty of time, but they haven't put in a whole lot of laps. David Marcus is currently at the pole, and we'll see if any of the drivers out there at the moment can improve on that. Checkered flag is out. Drivers are going to be able to complete their laps, and then we head towards our 1-hour race here in the ChampCar iRacing series. Strong showing from the drivers from Love Racing. They've got 3 drivers, David Kowalczyk, Nicholas Love, and Sean Saputra, who are, well, they've definitely been putting in their practice, so we'll see how they go for today's race. Fixed setup, of course, for all of our championship rounds. We'll see if that is in their favour or not. Well, I'm David Haynes. Producing is Michael Derby, and Devin Peters is now joining me alongside. Devin, Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, it gets a lot of heck for being a Tilke design circuit, but it should provide a very adequate challenge for our drivers today. There's a lot of difficult sections, and you get offline early here, you can lose a lot of time. So it'll be interesting to see how these ChampCar drivers are able to handle this very challenging and very long circuit, as you mentioned.
Yeah, key points for the circuit here. Very long back straight. Leads into a difficult braking zone, not because it's cambered or uphill or downhill, just because it's tough to spot your braking marker in a sea of asphalt there at the end of the final corner. And then, of course, track limits, always of concern here at Circuit of the Americas. There is an absolute abundance of paid runoff, as befits a FIA Grade 1 circuit. In qualifying, they can't use it because an off-track would invalidate your lap time, but in the race, our drivers are going to be here, there, and everywhere, I would imagine.
Yeah, I got to think this is going to look like some of those IndyCar races from last year where they just said, boys, have at it and take whatever line you want and do it as fast as you can. So I expect we'll be seeing guys making up a lot of ground, maybe outside the white lines on the track today.
Yeah, another key element of this circuit, sort of in the opening sector, the S's segment, where there is some very rapid, constant changes of direction, which are tough at the start of the race when the tyres are cold and the rear is very slidey, and difficult later on into the stint when you start to wear down the front tyres on these cars. So yeah, that's one to look out for as well. And of course, you do not want to hit any of the yellow apex curbs. What are you going to call them? Sleeping policemen, sausage curbs, track limits enforcers. They will launch you right up in the air. You want to avoid that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. These Miatas are pretty happy over the bumps, but you can hit them the wrong way and end up with a bent control arm or worse pretty easily, especially with the damage level on these cars. So it'll be very critical that these guys are considerate while they are exceeding those track limits today.
Indeed, so we're about to wrap up with qualifying in a couple of seconds. Then we head towards our 1 hour race. Fixed setup, everyone is starting with 4.2 gallons of fuel. That is going to necessitate a pit stop, but when they take it, and if they take tyres with the fuel, is up to our drivers and teams to decide. So we'll see what they do. Grid is on your screen here now, and that is locked in. David Marcus on pole, Max Lupfer going to be alongside him on the front row. Then your defending champion Alex Albert in the number 1 car in 3rd place, with Sean Saputra from Love Racing giving him company on the 2nd row. Charles Kowalczyk, Justin Hall there, Bradley Daly, Chris Knisley, Nicholas Love, and Jay Sofianek is your top 10, Devon.
Yeah. Andrew Chambry of Love Racing is our 11th driver, with Scott Grinnell in 12th place. Neil Hancock behind that in 13th. Aaron Thorpe in 14th. Andrew Cossack is in 15th place. David Palermo is in 16th. Ernesto Carriosa in 17th. Thomas McGinn in 18th. Gilberto Pinzon in 19th. Carlos Corredor in 20th. David Warden 21st. Rob Craig 22nd. Javier Pinzon in 23rd. We did have a few other drivers register today. We'll see if they make the grid or not, but they didn't put up a qualifying time. That's Juan Manuel Fernandez, Cameron Hinderer, and Andrew Fawcett, who all looks like put up times in practice but didn't repeat in qualifying. It's an impressive effort from David Marcus there, though. He's only got one other ChampCar iRacing race in the books, but it looks like he might be a bit of a Circuit of the Americas specialist, with that 2:38.8 putting him on the pole.
Yeah, we'll see how he goes in the race. A whole grid there on the back straight, just waiting to get underway. They only do about half of the lap for the formation lap here at Circuit of the Americas. Thank goodness, because it would take up quite a bit of our time under those pace car speeds here. So everyone getting ready, warming up, because shortly we go racing for 1 hour. I'm seeing that might be around 23 laps. And from what I learnt with the practice a week ago, I'm not sure many drivers are going to have the fuel to go much longer than about 35 minutes.
Yeah, unlike some of the downforce cars they put around this track, this Miata spends a lot of time on the throttle and a lot of time in the draft. So they will be guzzling fuel as fast as that little four-banger can, right?
Like we say, 4.2 gallons in the tank to start off with. Drivers could pit a little bit earlier, fill it up to get to the end, put on a new set of tyres, try and undercut their opponents. Or some drivers might try and go long, run the car light. We will see what is the preferred strategy. As they are rolling now, I think I'm seeing 24 cars are going to take the start here for round 8.
Oh, they're bunching up.
Certainly are. We're getting ready for the start. Past the pit entry, which is going to be very important in this race. And the pace car is going to dive on down there, field under the control of David Marcus. Still, as they approach the final corner, he's got them all backed up at 40 miles an hour. He's still holding the pack. And I think now he puts the power down, green flag waving. That is quite a bunched up starting grid that we have. Alex Albert has come right along with David Marcus to the inside of Max Lupfer here as well, which I'm not sure Lupfer is quite going to like, as they all file into turn 1 at the top of the hill here. Looking mostly clean in our top 5. David Marcus didn't quite grab the jump that you thought maybe he was going to get.
Yeah, I guess he preferred to wait for the flagman to give his signal. Certainly meant that cars were 3 and 4 wide back all the way through the field. David Palermo ran a little wide in turn 1, lost a few spots. We've got another one going off here in the S's. Looks like that's Andrew Chambry, who's actually spun it, running that Bitcoin-themed livery on his car. Lost control through the S's. Easy enough to do on the cold tires in this car.
Yeah, indeed. You do start with those very cold tyres. Very, very difficult to control in the first couple of laps. Unfortunately, that's happened to him. But like we say, an abundance of paved runoff. He's right back into it. And that might not be the last we see of him. At the very far end of the circuit now comes our leading packs. And that is Another challenging corner to spot your turn in. David Marcus has done it just about right, but now the long back straight, this is where you get up into fifth gear. The slipstreaming and the draft becomes very, very strong. Lutfer and Albert, you assume, are going to be right with Marcus by the end of this straight.
Make a good point about spotting the turn-ins, though. This track uniquely has so many tight corners from such high speeds that the guys with triple monitors might be really benefiting, as well as VR, from their ability to spot the corners a little earlier than the guys on a single monitor today.
Yeah, also from the fact of how wide the circuit is in places, particularly some of these corners like turn 1 where it opens up even further right before the corner. That is one way to think about it. So your top 4 are all in the order that they qualified still at the moment. Charles Kowalczyk lost 2 spots, so Hall and Daly have each picked up 1. And I think it's a rather measured start from everyone so far, with the exception of the spin that we saw for Schembri.
Yeah, Charles Kowalczyk has lost those 2 spots, but he certainly hasn't given up on it as he makes a move here on the inside of Bradley Daly. He's been looking for a way by ever since that little mistake into turn 1 cost him that spot, but he keeps on having to give it up, either not able to get the run or not able to get the dive into the corner. We'll see this battle develop over the course of the race, I'm sure.
Yeah, so top 5 getting away a little bit, and then here, 6th on back, great little fight. Bradley Daly, as you said, keeping Charles Kowalczyk behind. Chris Nicely and Nicholas Love right in touch as well as they come into turn 1, and Daly parks it on the apex there, and nowhere for Kowalczyk to go.
Yeah, you're going to have to drive around him by the looks of things. He is creating a bit of a train, though. Chris Nicely is now catching up to this battle and looking for his way by.
A million different lines through those S's in the first third or so of the circuit, but none of them are able to get Charles Kowalczyk around Bradley Daly at the moment.
We just need to applaud Charles Kowalczyk. Very few drivers are willing to race in their heart-stamped bloomers, as we saw in that onboard shot. That was awesome. A great theme on that livery.
And he's done a very good job there at the end of the S's to just cut back underneath and just a bit more confidence putting the power down than Bradley Daly. So Kowalczyk back up into 6th. Daly now under pressure from the mean green machine of Chris Nicely.
Yeah, it looks like we might have another little battle forming up here between Andrew Fawcett and Andrew Kosick. Andrew and Andrew. Both of them also chasing Andrew Schembri, who had that incident on lap 1. Andrew Fawcett's got the inside line as we head down to the end of the long back straight here. And it looks like he is certainly going to take the advantages in the corner. I'm not sure he'll be able to take the advantage on the way out. Oh, yeah, he gets plenty of room.
No qualifying time from Andrew Fawcett. So he started right at the back, 24th or so, and is now carving his way closer towards the front. So he's gotten past Kosick, he's just gotten past Palermo, and now he's it's Andrew and Andrew again as he lines up behind our friend Andrew Schembri. I think that's the Senders local union paint.
Yeah, looks like it. And yeah, Fawcett, as well as Nicely, have both been regulars in this series for us. As well as Kosick have both been regulars in this series for us. Fawcett in the top 20 in points, out of touch with the win right now, but certainly getting all of his entries for the prize for showing up and completing the majority of the races.
He's been distracted, though, by the bumper Schembri twice. He had a horrible line through the penultimate corner, missed his braking marker potentially for the final corner, and has absolutely no run at him. So might take a couple more laps to settle in, get the tyres warm before he's comfortable with the car. Nicely, meanwhile, as having an attempt at Daly. Good job, and Bradley Daly is being beleaguered here because now Nicholas Love goes down the inside of him at the S's as well. So a couple spots lost early goings for Daly, who qualified really, really well. Now he's been put back to 9th place as Kowalczyk, Nicely, and then Love have all made their way through.
And he looks like he's struggling with rear grip a little bit on the car. These cars are set up to oversteer a fair bit, of course, but it does look like he's a little looser than the guys ahead of him. So I don't know if he's kind of spun up the tires and overheated them a bit in this early phase of the race, but it's definitely costing him some time.
Right up front, David Marcus is pressing on, and he's all the way to the left-hand side of the back straight. Max Lupfer is not following in his slipstream. Alex Albert, though, is right up behind Lupfer. Is he happy to ride along in third for the minute? It appears he is. So that's interesting from our top three. Marcus almost in a position to be able to break away, and I think that would have been about the point I'd be trying to jump through into second if I was Alex Albert, but he still seems content right there in third for the minute. They've kind of dropped Saputra and Hall behind. I changed my mind. He's going for a dive there.
Yeah, and as you see those track limits or lack thereof come into play, Max Lupfer makes a real wide exit to keep the run and stay in front of Alex Albert. Albert is a guy who's known to stay behind and give a push if he feels like it's going to help him. And both he and Lupfer, with very respectable 39.1s, were still 0.3 off the pace of David Marcus's 38.8 in qualifying. So Alex might feel like he needs this draft from Max Lupfer to push him up to the front and up to contention for the win of this race. It is a bit of a risky game to play, though. Max Lupfer's fifth in points with Alex Albert leading, so make the wrong mistakes and all of a sudden Max Lupfer is making a big chunk of points back on you at the end of this race. So something Alex will have to keep in mind as he's battling.
Indeed. One more lap completed as they roll their way through turn one. 1.2 seconds the lead David Marcus has, and Lupfer and Albert still locked in a battle here for second, slowly losing touch with the lead of the race. Come through the S's this time. Marcus collecting a couple of the yellow curves. Big drift from Lupfer as he runs a little wide of where he might like to be there. He's caught it, he's defending the inside, but now it's Alex Albert's job to cross him back underneath, try to get a good run out of here, or he's going to try and play and go around the outside. Cops a huge amount of that curb, hip and shoulder, and they are corner by corner losing touch with the lead.
That was a great catch by Alex Albert. That car was, wow. I think that was all four wheels off the ground as he went over that curb. He really tossed that thing in there.
Forms the pack up for second place. Sean Saputra joins the party. Justin Hall thinking about it as well. So this is putting more pressure on Lupfer. He's survived through the first couple sectors of the lap there. But my goodness, is it shown that he's now on the ragged edge and under pressure.
Yeah, for sure. We see them almost going 3 wide into the next turn as they fan out on the exit.
Yeah, this final kind of sector here does let you pick a lot of different lines through some of these switchbacks, and then very long right-hander here that you can feel is going to punish the front left tire for these guys at this point.
Do make a good point though there that tires might become a concern. I think that did this car get some tweaks in the last update? Not sure all these guys will have done enough time to know exactly what the tire fall off is going to look like at the end of the stints.
Not sure about any massive tweaks in the last week. But certainly this car's been on the new tire model now approaching more than 6 months or so. So I think that when it comes to the tire longevity and the tire wear, it's pretty similar to how it's been at all of the rounds that we've used this car, the 2015 specification MX-5. Of course, we'll be using 3 different cars in this year's championship. Some of the more horsepower dependent cars. We've been using the iRacing Street Stock. We had that at Road America. It's going to make an appearance at California Fontana Auto Club later in the year. We've got a string of races in the middle of the year here using this Mazda Cup car, and then the Pontiac Solstice has also made its appearances.
I think this one's definitely the fan favorite, though the left-hand drive might throw off a few of the drivers who are used to the USDM only make rule of the ChampCar series, of course.
So yeah, we'll see. Definitely, there's some fans of the Street Stock out there as well. Requires a different set of skills, much longer braking distances. I'm watching Alex Albert though. He's sizing up second place here. They're now 3 seconds off the lead. And Albert's still staying in line though. He's right there. This is a little baffling to me.
I'm not sure. I wonder, it could also be that Alex is doing a bit of a fuel save in the first half here as well. You know, Marcus obviously faster on the track, but if Alex can save 4 or 5 seconds in the pits, he can be right up there at the end of the race. So that might be something that's entering his mind as well. And there's enough straightaways on this track to where if you're lifting and coasting and part throttle behind the car in front, you could probably make up some serious gallons just in that draft.
Yeah, not quite as strong as it is with the Street Stock, but we will see. We're also taking a look at a great battle that's going on 11th, 12th, 13th or so here. Scott Grinnell starting to back up Aaron Thorpe a little bit, and then the ever-hungry Andrew Fawcett has a surprise move to the inside here. I think Thorpe's just plain missed his turn in, and the shortest way is the inside of the circuit for a long corner like that. 2 for 1. Andrew Fawcett's grabbed Grinnell and Thorpe, who just plain turned in at the wrong time.
Yeah, that was some Max Verstappen style stuff there. Just take that inside line and force the other guys out wide.
Oh, and then another big miss there as Thorpe misses his braking point, drills the rear of Scott Grinnell, and Grinnell is around there. Big hit. That is I mean, it's an easy mistake to make, but it is a big mistake nonetheless still from Aaron Thorpe there.
Yeah, definitely costing Scott Grinnell some speed in the straight line, but it looks like his steering wheel is still straight. Don't know what the rear alignment on that car is going to be like after a hit like that, but man, he's recovered well. Of course, lots of paved area here, but that's not going to be making him very happy as he continues this first stint. I wouldn't be surprised
Albert's
to see
through
him
on Lutfer, backed him up into Sean Saputra, who's got a huge run. He's going to try and grab that as well. So to the far corner, I think this is the exit of the S's. Max Lutfer has just been too out of shape. Alex Albert's found the way through, and in doing so, backed him up again. Lutfer's not given up on it, so they're going to be side by side there, and Alex Albert looking in his mirrors saying, who do I want to give a toe to down this long back straight?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm kind of surprised that Lutfer didn't end up with a slowdown. It looked like he jumped all 4 tires over that sausage curve on the inside there. Might have had just enough of the right sides in line, but anyway, Saputra got the advantage on the draft, but Lutfer's got the preferred line.
And then
Saputra
brakes far too late there, and Lutfer holds onto that one very handily, very easily. But now the question is, Alex Albert's first lap clear. How quick is he going to be? Is he going to be able to close up David Marcus at all, or does he just not have the pace for that? That's what we're going to see in the coming lap.
Yeah, 1 lap pace is one thing, but once you scrub the fronts off these things, it's a different line, a different kind of track that you have to drive around for sure.
Certainly what we find, the cold tyres, very squirrely. Once all the tyres are warm, the fronts start to wear off through some of the rapid changes of direction, some of the long corners here. And the braking distances do get longer. It becomes harder to throw the car into some of the corners. So we got Lutfer sizing up, trying to get back at Alex Albert. We've got Justin Hall sizing up Sean Saputra in the background. So some great battles from our field at the moment. The top of the hill into turn 1. Albert runs wide. Lutfer's back through. Or is he, as the next corner goes to the right-hand side? But I think Lutfer, does have more performance back into second place. Just goes to show it is getting harder to turn the car into the tight corner.
Yeah, and meanwhile, that battle has let Sputra and Hall right back up into it. And they keep swapping spots like that. There's going to be a four-way battle real soon.
I think this is a four-car battle, if ever you can call one.
I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt until Sputra tries to make a braking move here on Alex. Because now that they're in line, you'd think they'd be able to get away again, but who knows with the draft the way it is.
Yeah, indeed, the run onto the back straight's going to be very important for all four of these guys right now. No one gets even close to bothering that particular apex, and it's like that sometimes. So they all get a very similar run, and Max Lutfer is leading the conga line right along the racing line there, getting closed in. He's to the right-hand side of the circuit. They approach the brakes. What are we going to see?
Well, one change
rolls out of the throttle a little bit.
One change that is definitely making itself apparent after this last patch is there were some changes made to the draft on all the cars. It looks like the drafts, the area in which you can get a draft behind the car was extended, but the power of the draft was reduced for virtually every single car on the service. So I think all of these guys are maybe not quite getting what they're used to in terms of the runs that they might be expecting. Alex Albert lights it up on that fake grass on the outside. Running wide has its risks, though it does have its rewards as well if you can get the power down.
So still scintillated by this battle for second place. Lutfer has managed to grab that back, but is still being pursued very closely by the other drivers, as everyone makes good use of the runoff area on the exit of the final corner. So, and Justin Hall certainly does, but not close enough to Saputra.
The other big battle I'm seeing on track right now is between 14th and 15th place, David Palermo and Scott Grinnell. Palermo has been valiantly fighting off Grinnell, who's made more than a few moves, just previously overlapping him before they headed into I think that's turn 17 there. Either way, he managed to hold him off there. We'll see if he can make a move beside him. And just up the road, we actually have Aaron Thorpe overtaking Neil Hancock on the straightaway, at least. Once again, with this wide track, it really gives a lot of opportunities to the person on the outside to defend with an over-under type of move. And that's what we're seeing, but looks like Thorpe was able to hold on, really maintain that run despite taking the more compromised inside line.
Damage on the front of the car for Aaron Thorpe is visually evident, but does not appear to be affecting his ability to make a move stick. So he goes into 12th place there and immediately has a huge drift that he manages to catch, and then it slides again, and then he catches it again. But that is going to be wearing out the tyres quite heavily for Aaron Thorpe there. Gets away with it, I think, though.
Yeah, he's definitely trying out for some Formula D there. Going back to the front, Alex Albert's got a run on Max Lutfer as they head down the back straight. Had enough of a draft that time. Let's see if he can get the braking zone just right and make that stick. Lutfer lines up the over-under. Oh, and Alex Albert keeps it just in front of him, manages to block that run. Gets real deep. And Lutfer's got the preferred line, but Alex Albert is defending into the more important corner, arguably on the left here. Real loose on the braking zone. Oh boy.
And again, it's, not a particularly hot track. There should be a fair bit of grip out there, but they're just, distracted, spending some time driving in their mirrors and, just not keeping it clean or tidy. But it works in the end. After a couple of corners, Alex Albert is back into second and 7 seconds behind David Marcus in the lead.
You can really tell that these tires are starting to go away on these cars, though, and getting real hot. Oh, a little bit of contact at the apex there as Max Lupfa rolls a little bit more speed than Alex did. Alex perhaps struggling after cooking the tires through the last few corners to get it turned in. We do see our first pit stop of the race. Nicholas Love coming in. We're only about 21 minutes into the race, so that is a fairly early pit stop. I'm wondering if the pit window is just sort of opened up here for him to get to the end.
Theoretically, the pit window's open from lap 1, but now's not a bad time if you're going for a really aggressive undercut to get it done. As Nicholas Love is going to get a new set of tires.
Well, we are seeing at the front of the field that, about a second and a half of drop off, and it does look a little bit bigger further down the field where Nicholas Love is, where we're seeing almost 2 seconds of drop off. So maybe he's figuring that an early undercut here will serve him well, get him track position, so that he doesn't have to battle with any of these guys ahead of him. Long pit stop, though, plenty of fuel going into that car.
Yeah, tough to gauge the tire wear. Albert has made an absolute mockery of putting the power down out of the far corner, and is he going to get? He's getting almost bump drafted by Lupfer at this point. These guys, you wonder how far away from a pit stop they are. It might only be 3 or 4 laps. And Hall are going to stay in line in the background here, and there's no attempt at a move from Max Lupfer. So it's interesting, these guys, 2nd and 3rd, 4th and 5th, in the little battles they are having.
It's kind of funny to watch guys show their real life racing tendencies in the sim. Alex Albert tapping just to make sure that there wasn't any knockback on the pads there before he got to the braking zone, and Lupfa thought he was really braking, got on the brakes a little earlier than usual. I'm assuming it was to check for knockback. Might have been a little bit of gamesmanship there. Max Lupfa, though, getting a good run around the outside here. He might be able to get alongside Alex. No, he has to lift. Is pushing too far offline.
A wide entry from Lupfer. Both of them respectful of the AstroTurf and curbing on the exit of the final corner. Not what could be said for Sputra or Hall, but nonetheless, they're all going to stay out of the pit lane.
They passed Ernesto Carriosa, who's currently all the way back in 21st place. He's their 2nd pit stop of the race. And Andrew Fawcett.
Yeah.
He's heading down the pit lane too. Decided that his tires have had enough, or maybe his fuel tank. Either way, he's going to try and get those tires and maybe get a little bit of an undercut. He's made up a lot of ground after starting in 24th place. He's all the way up to 9th, but this pit stop, might be a little bit early because he spent a lot of his grip trying to get through the field. Had to battle pretty hard at times to get past everyone.
Also joined by someone with a blown motor. I think that's Jay Sofianek. I saw him dropping back a little bit. He is laying down a trail of smoke in the pit lane. He'll be able to get that fixed, though, so it won't cost him a lap.
Yeah. Looking at the replay, it looks like on the way into turn 11, he just did a 5 to 3 on the braking zone, and boom. Pop goes the motor, able to limp it back to the pits, but definitely put a damper on what was a pretty good race for him up to that point. He had gained a few positions.
Problem for Love again. 2nd time on the lane for him. Paint me a little confused on that one.
He did have a spin, but now he's stopped on the lane. I'm wondering if there's some sort of technical issue going on his side. Yeah, you know what? His wheel suddenly turned hard to the right. And that's typically a sign of a wheel shutting itself off or failing. So I'm wondering if he's got a power cable that's disconnected or something like that that he has to reconnect. Um, uh, Unfortunately, not an uncommon occurrence in sim racing.
So, some shuffle of positions inside of our top five. Hall did get past Saputra, but it cost both of them quite a bit of time to Lupfer and Albert, where Lupfer is back into second. We are about a lap away from halfway in the race for these guys. So if they get a pit on the halfway, it's probably going to be the end of this lap. See what our leader David Marcus does though, because he has built that gap out about 7 seconds. He'd been consistently faster lap after lap than everyone else in the field, except the last time around Lutfer did just manage to be a little bit quicker, but not enough that you wouldn't say 7 seconds is a comfortable margin there for David Marcus.
I just got to mention how much I love his paint job. It's about the most millennial thing I can imagine. Cheetos on the front, Monster Energy in the middle, and then CBD oil on the back half of it. It looks like we're at some sort of TikTok convention here with a paint job like that.
Three things you need to play Xbox on a midday weekday.
Or survive an apocalypse. You never know. Anyway, it looks like Max Lufa is lining up a move here on Alex Albert, or at least trying to. Yeah, Alex shuts the door.
Fast. Coming into the far corner of the circuit. They are indeed getting a little bit feistier here, second and third. Got more guys on the pit lane. Rob Craig, Javier Pinzon, David Warden. So are these drivers going to follow suit? We'll know in just a couple corners' time.
And
David Marcus, your leader's coming in.
Yeah, and
so
I'm just
the guys behind as Alex Albert hugely shortcuts the corner, the penultimate corner, gets a tap on the bumper from Lutfer, but those two are coming on the lane as well. So first, second, and third coming in. Is anyone going to go much longer than this?
And that was some wily sim racer stuff, because Alex Albert knows that he can take. Oh yeah, and we've got the whole field coming in behind him. It looks like this was the end of the fuel window, but. Anyway, Alex Albert knows that he can take that black flag and give it up on the way into the pit lane. And more contact in the pit lane with Max Lufa as he tries to go from the fast lane to the slow lane here.
So David Marcus is in his pit box. Fuel will be going in, but I have not seen jacks go up on that car for our leader. Definitely have seen it for Albert, Lutfer, Saputra, and Hall. So 30 seconds now for Marcus. I don't think he's perfected this pit stop at all. Was he maybe speeding on the way into the lane? Because Albert is coming out with fresh tires in front of Marcus.
Well, I did mention that Marcus only has one other start. Excuse me. One other start with the CCIS, and that might be contributing to him maybe not, having the fuel calculations completely down, or knowing that tires are basically free with the pit stop here. Either way, he's definitely made it hard on himself, but at the same time, he never dropped out of the 39s with his old tires, and the other guys were struggling to stay in 39, so he might have something up his sleeve here. Alex Albert showing how cold those tires are, just executing a perfect drift out of those two guys.
They're super pointy on a cold set.
Max Lufa is lining up Marcus here as well. Maybe that's what Marcus had in mind. He's thinking, gonna try and avoid the pointy part of the tires? I'm not sure.
Yeah, but then after the first lap, you get a lot more bite on the front tires, a lot more grip, and I dare say it's an improvement from there and on. But they do get very close on the exit there. Marcus and Lutfer side by side for second, coming down the back straight. Interesting tactic from Lutfer. Rolls out of the throttle a tiny bit, jumps back in the toe of David Marcus, and is that going to help him attack at the end of the straight, or is he given up on the spot?
I think he might have just given up on that corner in particular. You got to think that he's got enough fuel, because Alex Albert certainly isn't lifting with his lead right now. So if I'm Max Lupfer, I'm thinking
Around the
I've
outside.
got fresh tires.
Why not?
I got fresh tires. The guy behind or guy ahead doesn't. So let's make it stick while I still got the advantage.
Can't convert it. Max Lutfer gets a big moment to correct from. All the while that this happens, he's losing a lot of time to Alex Albert. So Marcus is, at the minute, backing up Lutfer and Hall just a little bit.
Well, and it looked like a huge loss for us, but I mean, in real seconds, that was only 9 seconds. I mean, Alex has maybe a second and a half here, and he was 7.5 seconds behind before the pit stop. So just a minor miscalculation. That could have been 1-2 clicks on the fuel, and Davis Marcus is, well, he's definitely paying the price for that.
Yeah, they all follow Alex Albert along in down the straight into turn 1. Early turn in from Marcus, late turn in from Lutfer. Which one works out the best? About the same. So you can pick and choose into turn 1, it seems.
Yeah, and in classic Spec Me Out of fashion, Marcus is looking all over for that draft off the guy in front of him.
Yeah, indeed. Through the S's now, there'll be a bit of heat in the tyres for the guys who changed them. I think right now is when they're going to be noticeably stronger through that kind of section of corners, because they'll have proper balance and just a lot more grip and bite for the turn-in.
Tough for Alex here. He has to clear this lap traffic. Carlos Corridor is staying on the line, and Alex is able to make it clear. Let's see if Corridor is in the way for Marcus or Lufa. Ooh, and some contact. Marcus ought to be able to steal that, but actually it looks like Lufa's had some sort of issue. I noticed he was getting pretty loose through the S's there. He must have lost a little extra time. So now it's Justin Hall in third place. He's going to have his run at Marcus with the much fresher tires, of course. And it bears mentioning that unlike the Spec Miatas, these NC Miatas aren't running Hoosiers, as far as I understand. They're running sort of more conventional street tires.
So, our top 4 work their way through the traffic there. David Marcus, Justin Hall, and then Max Lutfer. It is about 2 seconds the advantage that Alex Albert's managed to grab at the minute. So, Marcus under pressure from the guys with fresher tyres behind at the minute.
Yeah, but despite all this battling, he's not losing, oodles of time to Alex Albert up front. He's just losing little bits here and there. This is a pretty significant move for Justin Hall, though. Max Lutfa is in 5th place with 180 points. Justin Hall is actually in 4th place with 190. As he makes the move up here, up the inside, takes advantage of Marcus's little mistake, and Max Lutfa does too. And that's the fresh tires paying off. Marcus couldn't put the power down, so both Lutfa and Hall were able to take advantage. And well, we'll see what it looks like if those two can make up some ground on Alex Albert, who's now almost 2.5 seconds ahead.
Yeah, precisely. So it was a great run into the final corner from Justin Hall. And then he just, got David Marcus off the racing line. Max Lutfer saw the opportunity as well and jumped for it. Now I think our next best battle is going to be Lutfer maybe trying to size up Justin Hall, as Hall gets a big clobber and then a slide from the yellow sort of apex defining curbs. Lutz is looking for an interesting line that is not going to work there, but putting the pressure on for second.
Yeah, and you're kind of seeing the differences in, I don't know, if style or if Lufa just hasn't adjusted to the fresh tires yet, but it looks like he's putting in a lot of steering angle relative to the guys in front, and it keeps catching him out in the middle of the corners. I wonder if he'll be able to make that adjustment. Alex Albert is also taking some lap traffic here. Looks like he's just managed to pass Javier Pinzon, who had an issue on the prior lap, flipping that car backwards on the exit of 17. Or sorry, of 12 at the end of the back straightaway.
Lutz has a look to the inside, level, nose to nose.
Are we going to be full wide? Lufa makes it stick.
Indeed he does. Back up into second where he qualified.
Another thought that's just crossed my mind is Alex Albert spent much of that first stint in the draft, and a lot of these drivers use some third-party programs to help, sort of calculate the fuel loads that they'll be needing to take at the pit stop. And Alex Albert being in the draft, he might have, had his calculations sort of affected by the fact that he was in the draft during that first stint. Here's hoping that he actually took on enough fuel. He might not have. He might have, in addition to taking less fuel, taken on a lot less fuel because of the calculations accounting for the draft that he doesn't have anymore. Alex Albert, if our viewers are watching, had a 55-second pit stop compared to David Marcus's 1:03 that was on the lane.
So our top 5 or 6 cars have regrettably started to spread out a little bit. As I say that, Alex Albert has a moment, and Lutfer is maybe going to catch him, as Lutfer has a big old drift through the S's as well.
It does look like he's getting some time, though.
Grinnell, 10th and 11th. Our only battle on circuit presently underneath a second. Thorpe has had the front of that car fixed up in his pit stop. So if it was hurting him with straight line speed or anything at all, he's had that polished out. He's all good now.
Our eagle-eyed viewers will notice that Scott Grinnell did take some damage earlier in the race. I recall, I believe it was Andrew Fawcett, maybe? Actually, no, maybe it was Shembry that tagged him on the right rear. Either way.
Thorpe and Grinnell that came together earlier.
Oh, okay.
They're back together again now. Best friends.
Yeah, as it often goes in racing. Anyways, Grinnell, interestingly enough, didn't choose to take his fast repair at that pit stop, so he's still got that little bent-up trunk on the right rear, and he'll have to fix that after the race, I guess. But that might be slowing him down on the straightaways. It's hard to say with these cars. He certainly made up some ground through that set of S's, though.
Yeah, great stuff here for these two guys. Run onto the back straight is going to be important for both of them, as it is every single lap, but especially when you've got someone right up behind you. Looks really good for Grinnell. Fortunately, it does not seem like it was quite good enough. And they got to jump down a whole bunch of gears at the end of the back straight, probably fifth down into second.
Now, while we've been watching this battle back here, Alex Albert lost 8/10 on the last lap to Max Lufa. and looks like he's lost another few heading into turn one. He's going to have to find some pace in that huge-ass sponsored Miata. Otherwise, he's going to be in trouble here pretty quickly as Lufa continues to claw back ground through the S's.
Yeah, it's underneath 3/10 now. Lufa continues his drifty ways up the hill.
Marcus, on the other hand, who opted not to take those tires, has really been paying the price. He's now 6 seconds behind the leader. Definitely feeling that decision, and it seems like it'll define his race. About 18 minutes to go.
Yeah, precisely. Head of the field here. It's, well, 4/10. Not that that matters a whole lot when you can see for your eyes what the difference is.
It's going to keep getting smaller with the draft on that backstraight.
Certainly will. Big hop of the apex from Lutfer, getting as close as he can. He's going to try, presumably, to take this later turn in, later apex, cross back underneath on Albert. Not working for him yet. He's definitely... Whoa, both of them. Second gear really will let you light up the rear tires.
Yeah, all 168 horsepower, what is it, of that NC Miata? Spinning those poor little rear tires. Really, honestly, though, this car is a great analog for the kind of racing that we see in the ChampCar series. You know, I was reading a post the other day in the ChampCar garage that sort of spoke. Lufa's getting a nice run here. Sort of spoke about bringing a car from another series, and the guy had 300 some horsepower, something like that. I think that ChampCar really strikes a nice balance, allowing the drivers to show off their talent. Max Lufa, showing off his talent, makes a nice dive up the inside of Alex Albert, and Albert tries the over-under line. Has a better run, but I don't think it'll be enough to get him alongside before they head into the S's. Maybe Alex can learn some of the tricks that Lufa was using to make up that ground on him in the previous lap. Either way, a change for the lead.
Yeah, indeed. Luke for an Albert, maybe, hopefully going to fight this one all the way to the end. Both of them pushing really hard, getting the occasional slide here and there. Maybe a bit more drift angle for Luke, for maybe too much drift angle, as Alex is to the inside coming up the hill. At the top of the hill, though, that's the outside, and he really can't convert that into any more momentum back down towards the far corner. Down the back straight, close as it's ever been, and continuing to close. Alex Albert's just got that 2-3 miles an hour more as he pulls out towards the inside and early for the hard braking zone at the back of the far back straight. He's gone in a little too deep, and again side by side with Lutfer, who has become very adept at going the long way around and also trying to cut back underneath. This time, is it going to work around the outside? Kind of. I think that's a good run from Lutfer. Good defense of his lead.
Yeah, it's real tough to keep any momentum up once you have to go offline. Especially in that corner. But there is some lap traffic starting to form up ahead of these guys, so we'll see if that ends up playing a part. Down to 14 even minutes to go in this race.
Yeah, indeed, inside the final quarter of the race. It's David Warden that Max Lupfer has to worry about, but no longer, as he goes down the inside and is not bothered so much at all.
That Warden does the right thing and gets out of the way of the leaders, allows them to continue on their battle.
He's a warden, but he's not a prison guard. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah, wasn't going to fight for that lap with his life.
Track right now, I think cool as it's been. It's a mostly cloudy day, and we've had a bit of cloud coverage for the last couple laps. It feels like it certainly helps the longevities of the tire, and gives just a couple more laps where it's at its best.
Yep, and it must be like December here or something, because this is about as cold as I've ever seen Austin. Pretty sure that all the ChampCar races, the ChampCar race that's going to be occurring here the next weekend is going to be warmer than this.
So we're on lap 18 with 5 to go. Lupfer still leading, couple tenths from Alex Albert, and these two have traded that spot a couple times.
Also on the list, oh no, I guess I'm wrong. Looks like Justin Hall has managed to retain that lead that he was able to, or that spot that he was able to take from David Marcus earlier in the race. Marcus still struggling on those tires after opting not to take tires during the pit stop. He's down to 9 seconds behind. And then Charles Walchuk and Sean Sputra, who had a pretty lively battle going on earlier in the race, those two have settled into a comfortable 5th and 6th place with about 5 seconds between them, and a big gap back to 7th place with Chris Nicely.
Tough little time there for Knisley. Might have pushed a little wide and made a little bit of contact there.
I'll take the blame for that one. That's the commentator's curse, of course, coming into effect. As soon as I say the guy's name, he goes and takes someone out. Either that or he heard us on the broadcast and decided he'd make some TV for us.
Thorpe and Grinnell are having fun again. Can you keep those two apart? Don't think so. I think Grinnell was ahead, Thorpe got ahead, and now Grinnell's back ahead in the battle with these two. And you can see what ought to be a relatively clean white front to Scott Grinnell's car. It's been pushed in and scuffed in a couple places there. A lot like Thorpe's car looked earlier before it got fixed.
Yeah, and Thorpe seems to keep getting himself in trouble with off tracks. Yeah, he's had to serve a couple of slowdown penalties from race control that I've noticed at least 2 times. But each time he seems to be able to make up enough driving cleanly that he can catch Scott Grinnell and mostly get around him. But you know, inconsistency can be the death of you in a motor race, and inconsistency is what he's been struggling with during this race so far. Back to the pointy end of the field, it looks like Alex Albert's lining up a move up the inside of Max Lupfer after making up some ground and a good run. And yeah, he parks it on the apex. Yeah, he parks it on the apex of turn 12. Manages to sneak back ahead of Max Lupfer. We'll see how long that's lasting for.
Well, Alex Albert's going to hope that it lasts him the remaining 10 minutes of this race. But it is maybe going to last him a corner or so. There was only just room to avoid contact there between him and Lupfer. Again, surprised. No slowdown for cutting the corner there for Lupfer. He's just within legal limits. USDA approved quantities.
Yeah, they definitely take the the IndyCar approach to those track limits today. And Alex Albert must have gotten a slowdown himself, because he got right off the racing line there and let Lufa by on the outside. We'll see if he was able to regain that time he had to give back to race control there.
Seems like he's back at speed now, but yeah, that did look like he just had half a second to give up. Had to get on the brakes early for the final corner. Did he maybe grab a little bit too much of that penultimate corner? So tempting, such a weird, difficult corner, a little bit off camber, very fast. And sometimes the car just wants to push wide there. Sometimes you turn in too early.
Easy enough to do when everything's all runoff area at this circuit.
Yeah, you give it a little bit more respect at Detroit, maybe.
Yeah, when it's a 4-foot wall. Oh, and I'm actually just keeping an eye on Scott Grinnell and Aaron Thorpe. And I remember Grinnell's sort of nice-looking front bumper in that 42 car. Well, it's kind of bent up now, because he's just given Scott Grinnell a shunt about 2 corners ago, as he tried to line up something in the braking zone, and he didn't expect Grinnell to be where he was, I guess. Either way, that gap certainly grew. And we'll hope for his sake that he hasn't suffered enough damage to overheat that motor in the final 7 minutes of this race here. Either way, that battle is far from over.
Yeah, pretty tough cars, but it is possible to give yourself a radiator leak that eventually might overheat and destroy your motor. It's possible. It hasn't happened a whole lot this season.
Yeah. As the guy who's put a car in a gravel trap and fed it gravel, it's certainly preferable to take that kind of damage on the track rather than heading off and finding one of the gravel traps. It would make me comfortable pushing pretty hard on this track. So I can understand how it's happening to those guys.
This is probably going to go down to the final corner of the final lap between these two. Yeah, you have to feel as Lutfer is taking liberties with the penultimate corner this time, appears to have gotten away with it. But, you know, there's plenty of exits of corners here where you can disregard track limits. When it comes to cutting the inside of any of the corners, that is what might attract you a penalty. You said, Devon, that you'd seen a couple people potentially do that. Were there any corners in particular that were tempting or harshly enforced?
I think the inside of turn number 9, which is the turn kind of at the top of the hill after the S's, has gotten a few people in trouble during this race, as well as turn 19, of course, as you've mentioned, that penultimate corner on the track. So we'll see if either of them make any mistakes here as we head through the S's. Lufa definitely had to give something up as he was passing that lap car. I didn't catch who that was on the way by. I guess McGinn. Thomas McGinn, yeah. But anyway, not this turn, but the next left-hander is easy enough to get too far inside, and then all of a sudden you're serving a 0.7 or 1 second slowdown. Tricky thing is with tires having gone off a little bit, sometimes you can serve a penalty just by running at full race speed, because your tires are giving up so much that you haven't actually gained time relative to your optimum lap, which I believe is what they use to calculate the penalty times. So, Lufa might be doing some sort of wily veteran things where he's, taking those penalties knowing full well that he can give them back at full speed on what the tires are capable of right now. Either way, it looks like I'm going to say 2 laps here till the end, and we'll see what the two of them are able to do. Alex Albert and Lufa both, Alex Albert leading the points and riding high after his Dinner with Racers World Final win about 2 weeks ago, and Lufa in 5th place in the points, hoping to gain some ground on Justin Hall, who's in 3rd place.
So there are two battles at the moment. There's the lead of the race, and there's Grinnell and Thorpe. And there's going to be 2 to go for our leaders this time around. As we say, 2-minute 40-second laps or so, and just over 3 minutes left on the board.
Yeah, my poor little brain wasn't able to figure out that mental math. At least not from halfway through the lap. But that sounds about right to me. Luke has managed to string his lead out.
Yeah, another little problem from Albert in the final sector, I think. I didn't see any cut course there or something, but he's just not at the best he was a couple laps ago. Lead's almost out to 2 seconds now.
We do have one
Unless
foul on.
Took some liberties at Max Verstappen's favourite corner.
That could easily be it. There's a lot of sort of sneaky little slowdown penalties in this track. I'm actually, I haven't watched enough. I'd like to see what the ChampCar race ends up looking like here, because track limits is certainly, you know, something that you have to keep your eye out. And I haven't had the experience of driving a real car. Ooh, as Max Lufa goes really, really wide there. He must have mistaken that real grass for artificial turf on the exit of that corner. I haven't had the liberty of driving a real car across artificial turf to see what it's like. So I'm kind of interested to watch the live stream this weekend and see how that ends up playing out for some of our drivers. But certainly,
yeah, I mean, here on iRacing, you take some liberties with the track limits in some places, and you get told to give up half a second. If you take too many liberties too often out on the real racetrack, you might get called into pit lane to explain yourself, which is a far more costly time penalty.
Yeah, preparing a legal defense is never a short process, especially for us amateur racers. You know, I don't have a lot of law degrees in our fields.
I think there's quite a few law degrees in our field, just not so many at our level. You go a little bit higher up the rungs, there's probably a couple more law degrees.
I'd be willing to believe that. Anyways, they're coming around the corner. Yeah, onto the final lap.
As you say, through the final corner he comes, and our flag man will have the white flag ready in the final minute of time. So that is the start of the final lap. It's looking about 2.3 seconds at the minute.
Cameraman has flipped back to David Marcus, who's putting up a little bit of a charge here on Justin Hall, who just had to lose a little bit of time going by David Palermo. If David Marcus can make his way quickly past Palermo, he might actually have a chance to make up Justin Hall's spot here. So we'll have to see. We'll keep an eye on that while still featuring the lead of the race as we head into our final.
I think what we're seeing here is, like you said, they're a grooved road-based tyre. You put a new set on, of course it's going to be, quick, but as many laps in since the pit stops as we are, I think Justin Hall's tyres have kind of plateaued to the same level of David Marcus there in fourth. So while Hall was, probably quicker the first, 8 or maybe even 10 laps on that fresh set of tyres, now they've just sort of reached that stage that they can hold on to for a long time as a durable sort of road tyre.
Yeah. Palermo's providing a nice draft for David Marcus down the back straight as we watch our leader swinging around turn number 12 at the end of the back straight. And Palermo's doing the gentlemanly thing, getting out of the way. Justin Hall and Marcus now within a half second of each other.
Scap has just continued to extend for your leader, Max Lupfer, though. You can't help but feel like Alex Albert may have just given up on that one.
Yeah, you never know. There's 2 cars ahead of him. Could easily cause a mistake going into these final corners. But looks like Max Lupa is going to take this one home. The only real question we have in the top 5 is David Marcus and Justin Hall. And we'll see. A simple little off-track penalty here from Justin Hall could cost him this podium finish. Looks like he stays well wide of that's penultimate apex as Max Lupa comes to the line. Oh no, but Justin Hall did have to give back. He did have to give back on that last one. And now they're 2 wide heading down, and Marcus has the run. And I think he beat him. To the line there.
Yeah, close finish there for third. Justin Hall, pressure right at the end, just getting to.
Oh, that's a real bummer. Charles Gwalchik with some celebratory wrecking.
I tell you what, there's down the back for Aaron Thorpe on Scott Grinnell, though, and he's going to dive it to the inside. Both of these cars a little bruised, a little battered in places. Can Aaron Thorpe get that stopped and turned? Maybe not. He did go in very shallow, very tight, and late on the brakes, and Grinnell slices back underneath. So last lap, you got to give it a shot if you're Aaron Thorpe. But I think he misjudged that one a little bit, was a little too enthusiastic for it. Grinnell back into 10th.
Yep, and that FIA Grade 1 circuit coming into play. You can be extra brave in the braking zone, even if it doesn't serve you well on the exit.
Final sector, and there is less pressure on Grinnell. I think he can hold on to this one quite manageably. So yeah, Grinnell is going to hold on to that one in the 55 car to round out his top 10. 2 positions gained from where he qualified. Aaron Thorpe gained 3 positions, but then into 11th place. And Andrew Shembry just behind them. Looks like he might have been the last car on the lead lap. Forgive me. It is a long lap here, so many of our cars are still on the lead lap. Kosick, it appears. I thought he was very, very close to going a lap down there. He was sort of side by side with Lupfer as Lupfer took the checkered flag. It may appear, though, that Kosick didn't end up the lap down. So he was, 1 lap minus about half a car length back off Max Lupfer. But he's going to have enough fuel to bring that thing around. And Kosick is going to wrap up 14th place. No one can take that away from him.
Yeah. And a very clean race from all our drivers today. Are we going to be able to get any of them in here in the booth for an interview?
We'll see in a minute once we run down the finishing order, which was won today by Max Lupfer. Came under plenty of pressure, had to fight for it right up until I'd think about 2 laps to go there. Alex Albert gets second, David Marcus in third, as you see, ahead of Justin Hall. The margin there ended up being almost a second, actually. And then Kowalczyk in 5th, Sean Saputra in 6th. Chris Knisley gets 7th place. And then Bradley Daly in 8th. Andrew Fawcett in 9th place is the big mover after starting in 24th. Basically last, 3 missed qualifying. So he ended up then in the top 10. Same for Scott Grinnell in 10th place. Then it's Aaron Thorpe in 11th. And Neil Hancock, 12th. Andrew Shembry in 13th. Andrew Kosick, last car on the lead lap in 14th. David Palermo, Thomas McGinn, David Warden, Rob Craig, Ernesto Carrizosa, Carlos Corredor, Javier Pinzon, and Gilberto Pinzon. Our last 4 finishers, all from Club Florida there. So Florida in the house for today's race. Jay Sofianek, retirement there. We did see him blow the motor, and then I don't know what happened after that. And Nicholas Love also in retirement, having only completed 9 laps. We saw there was potentially some kind of hardware failure for him there. And then Juan Manuel Fernandez and Cameron Hinderer did not take the start. So, our winner, Max Lupfer, welcome to the booth. Congratulations. At what point in that race did you think you'd have it? Because, David Marcus looked very, very quick early. Alex Albert led a couple laps there. But in the end, you getting that number 1 next to your name.
Well, thanks. It feels good to be on the top step of the podium. Was second place last time out, so good to be on top. I think I knew I had a chance when we all left pit road kind of together. I knew that David might have messed up his fuel calcs or something, and that brought him back to the rest of the field. And then I knew Alex and I were going to be close, but I could probably outrace him. I think I had just a little bit of a pace advantage. So when we all came out together, that kind of gave me the courage to keep on pushing it a little bit more.
Cold tires definitely looked like a handful that you kind of have to push through before you get that advantage of the new tires. How's the balance of the car changed across the whole race?
Well, it definitely goes from loose to tight. It starts out with the back end being very tail happy, and by the end of the stint, the fronts were basically dead. Trying to turn in after a braking zone, it just would not go. So those last few laps, it just felt like driving a truck.
Well, gonna congratulate you on the win here at COTA. Where should people expect to see you next? Are you going out on the track in the real world, and are we going to see you here in ChampCar iRacing Series for the rest of the season as well?
I'm definitely going to be on iRacing a lot more this year. I'm currently working on a new build, so that's probably not going to be ready till the fall. But I have been doing some instructing and hanging out with some of the Grid Life folks out at their track days and having a blast there.
And lastly, any thanks you need to give?
Just happy to be out here, happy to finally be on the top step, and happy to drink some Gatorade to cool off after that one.
Enjoy it. Congratulations. Race very well run and well deserved by you.
Thank you.
Devin Peters, your friend Alex Albert finished in second place. I think that's still a decent points haul for him. You're going to have a word.
Oh, that's not just any Alex Albert. That's world champion of the Thursday Night Blunder Alex Albert you're talking to. Alex Albert, how does it feel after a strong battle ending up in second place, being bested by Max Lupa?
I'm a little disappointed, but all in all, it was probably the best finish that could have got for the number 1 HJ Motorsports Miata today. David Marcus was the class of the field, but being new to the series, he made some mistakes during the pit stops, took a little bit too much fuel, and didn't take any tires. That allowed me and Max to catch back up at the stop. I was able to get out front. I thought I might be able to get away, but just not quick enough to stay away from Max. Once he got around David, he ran me down, and I kind of got lucky with the lap traffic a couple times to get back to Max's bumper, but I don't know. He just carried more speed in a couple corners than I was able to, especially the final turn, and I just wasn't able to keep with him. And then, last couple laps, the tires just fell off completely. But still stand on the podium, still a good points day. So, but got to keep an eye on Max. I think he's going to be a real championship contender.
Yeah, with a performance like that, he definitely left his mark there. And you enjoy your time in Austin, and I think that you might come down here ever with that huge ass Miata.
Someday. It's a heck of a pull or tow from where we're at here in Virginia, but I'm sure one of these days we'll get it marked off the bucket list. Gonna work on a few more close to home and a little bit more well suited to our car. But I've been to Austin for the Formula One race, had a great time. So yeah, I'd love to go back someday.
Nice. It looked like you and Max had a pretty solid battle on there. Did you think that you had anything for him, or did you sort of know the whole way that you were looking for a mistake to try and overtake him?
Yeah, the first part of the race, I didn't think I had much for him, but then towards the end of that first run, I felt like I was a little bit quicker, maybe, and got ahead. So I thought that I might have something for him, but then the way he ran me down after he got around David, I knew it was going to be kind of tough. And so, second place it's pretty good. Probably would have been happy with it if you would have offered it to me before the race. So just need to keep that in mind. It's immediately post race, it's just a little tough sometimes after you've been out the front of the field for a while.
Well, congrats on a consolation prize, finishing on the podium at least. And anyone that you need to thank for your race today?
Yeah, I think I will thank my wife for all the support. Couldn't do it without her. She's HJ's biggest supporter, so want to give my shout out to my wife. Thanks for all the support.
Thank you for coming out and putting on our show.
Yep, thanks guys. Thanks for putting this on, and glad I got to talk to you.
Take care.
Well, we move to our final step of the podium, and I've got to get it out of the way right off the top. No tires at the pit stop. You are ruining that particular decision, David Marcus?
Oh, yeah, the entire rest of the race. A couple weeks ago was my first ChampCar race. I'm used to 20-minute races, and had an incident early on, so never even made it to the pits. So didn't have a good pit strategy and unchecked the tires. And yeah, that was a big mistake.
Great pace in qualifying, great pace in the opening stints, though. And there's a couple more races coming up in this season using this car. What is it you like about it?
To me, in iRacing, it's one of the most realistic cars. I do races in the ND, and the ND to me feels like a hovercraft. But the NC just feels, I don't know, I feel connected to the road. I feel, I get good feedback from the car.
Yeah, indeed. First championship round of the ChampCar iRacing series that we've run at COTA, and it's a unique circuit compared to some of the more historical North American road racing circuits. What in your mind from the driver's seat might make it a challenge or suit your driving?
It's not my favorite track. It's especially weird with the track cuts. So, when you're in the race and there's no max incident count, all of us racing at the, end up cutting most of the corners because the track allows you to get away with that. It's, I don't know. I mean, that track was built for Grand Prix cars, and we're in these super slow Miatas, and I don't think it's the right track for these cars. The second half of the track has some pretty slow corners, which I find to be kind of painful in a slow car.
Well, despite your, I guess, unfortunate pit stop blunder there that's robbed us of a good fight, you surely have to be moderately happy with your speed in the car.
Yeah, I was just really disappointed. I knew, when I saw the pace that I had versus the other guys after the pit stop, I knew I'd lost the race at that point. But I was happy to finish third. I was actually in fourth into the last corner, and Justin Hall was in front of me and cut the corner. So he had a course cut and had to slow down. That's the only reason why I ended up in third instead of fourth.
Yeah, indeed. Well, as I say, still a couple more races ahead in this year's championship. any you're looking forward to? Got a favorite track, or do you even have any feelings about the Solstice or Street Stock?
I haven't driven either of those cars, and I honestly don't even know what tracks are remaining for the rest of the season. So I'm kind of embarrassed, but I'll have to check it out and see what's coming up in the next couple of weeks.
1st of July, Mosport, 5th of August, VIR, both in this NC Cup car. What do you think?
VIR is one of my favorite tracks. I can't wait to drive it in this car, and would love to someday drive it in real life.
Well, thank you so much for being a good sport, putting on a bit of a show, and also making yourself available to have a chat with us.
No problem at all.
Well, there we go, Devon. Another championship round of the ChampCar iRacing series. This one, round 8 from COTA. Any closing thoughts from you?
I think our championship is beginning to sort itself up, and Alex Albert looks like he's put a stake in at the top of the points. It's going to be a hard battle for anyone else to get up there and battle him, but I'm looking forward to the next few rounds, and we'll see if he can close the door on that championship title that he's been working so hard to grab.
Yep, so that was round 8 from COTA for the first time in the 3-year history of this championship. Real ChampCar Endurance Series gets back on the track this weekend at COTA, and I'm definitely going to have a look, see how that goes, and hopefully all of the drivers there have an enjoyable but a safe time. As I told David Marcus, next championship round for this iRacing series is at Mosport, 1st of July. So that is, about 3 or so weeks away. We hopefully will have you again joining us for that one here from HJBC. It's been a delight having you tonight. We want to thank you so much for your support. And once again, I've been David Haynes. It's been Devon Peters with me, and Michael Derby pressing all of the buttons, pushing out our broadcast feed. Thank you so much to those guys. We'll see you again soon.